Hey guys, B.O.L.T here. So I'm trying to get videos out. So we're gonna be doing the summary of Call of Cthulhu since yesterday was the last video of Call of Cthulhu. Whenever Slayaway Camp is done, I am at least halfway done with the N17 levels. Um, I'm actually more than halfway by slightly, but who knows if they're gonna be completely done coming this Monday. Because that's as far as Slayaway Camp goes until next Saturday. Um, Now let's see here. Um, Trying to think. So basically, when Slayaway Camp does happen, I am gonna do this. Is supposed to be a like, hooray! This game's done. So I'm gonna be going over that game. It's not going to be the summary of, because really there's nothing to go over Slayaway Camp wise else than just a Friday the 13th. Um, he it's basically an off-brand version, not off-brand. It's a second hand. That's what I think of. It's a copy, a fake. Um, it's kind of like how Scary Movie does with Ghostface and all them. Anywho, let's get into the summary. So basically, private detective Edward Pierce, after coming out of a war, um, he ends up being completely out of it. He has no motivation, and he is basically drunk most of the time anymore. And he has not been on cases as he should, and this makes his private detective license have the chance to be revoked, because he's no longer doing work, so there's no credibility and there's no money coming in to keep his service open. Finally, I forgot his name, but he is an art collector. He is the father of Sarah Hawkins, and he wants Edward Pierce to go to this island known as Darkwater and learn about basically what happened to the Hawkins family and see what happened to them. And only proof that he has is there's a painting that has a Cthulhu esque background. Um, and this makes someone intrigued because these are every time Sarah Hawkins paints something, it has a more realistic slash horrific, um, disturbing content, but yet it is one of the most highest painting. She's one of the highest painters out there. Um, so because of this painting, her father and Pierce think there's something going on. Pierce travels to Darkwater via a ooh, I think you would call it a fair, but a boat. Basically, it's just a little island. He is traveled by Captain Fitzroy, and basically the whole thing of Darkwater is a few decades prior, probably about 2 generations prior. Um, they hauled the biggest whale ever. Darkwater's biggest thing was they were doing when whaling was legal. They did whaling and they got oils and the meat and everything else that can come off a whale. And that's how they got most of their profit and how they mostly got their enrichment, basically. So once whaling was illegalized, and also the fact that they also were basically hard to find whales anymore, um, they became a very desperate society. Of course, everyone holds that giant whale catch as the most historical and most biggest thing that they pull up to the bar, and they call it, I'm trying to remember, I think it's supposed to be like the Great Catch or something like that. And basically, if someone were to go onto dark water and they're not from there, and they insult it, you would get most of dark water on your back. So, there is this, I think it's a shark. A shark is completely destroyed, and when it comes to a seaman, they're like, okay, that's a telling that something bad is happening. Um, try to get. I think this they were like, keep throw it back in the water. That way we don't gotta keep having it on land. Um, and the cops are just trying to figure out what's happening. Um, I'm trying to remember. Captain Fitzroy tries to help you with your case. His grandfather was a part of the Great Catch. Um, and then Pierce goes around looking for clues. He finds out that most of the town is proper of not property but turfed by um a very fierce person because people are terrified of them, known as Cat. And then you end up finding that there is this lady. Basically, if you were to go into Batman, it's basically Selena Kyle, and that's basically who she is. Um, and she basically has skills that are able to have her fight back. She's able to be fierce enough to keep people off her turf. She has people work under her as like the cronies. Um, and she's the only reason that you're allowed to go into a Hawking's storage where you find a painting that should have been destroyed via the fire. Because apparently there was a fire that started at the Hawking's mansion where, Sarah, her husband, I just finished this game and it's not fresh in my mind. Um, but her son and her husband, Charles Hawkins, they all are supposedly killed in this fire, and there is a fatherly figure to Charles that was like a lawn keeper to this mansion. Um, anyhow, whenever the fire started, that painting should have been burnt. So Pierce sees this, notices that it has the same kind of style as the painting that brought him here. He meets a officer of the law known as Bradley. They go up to the mansion. They meet the caretaker. They're able to go into it. They come across the graves, of course. He looks through all the mansion to see what happens, and he finds out that there was a struggle in there. Um, and whenever he gets led to the art room of Sarah's, there is a painting. If you take a good look, it's either Charles or Pierce, and it is Pierce. I'm gonna spoil that now. Basically, she made a painting of Edward Pierce without seeing her, and that makes you think she has some kind of powers or something that allows her to see into the future or know something. Um, and that picture is taken via an occultist of the, we learn, which we don't know the name of fully, but is the cult of Cthulhu, the people who try to raise him. They try to awaken him, and basically, one of them takes the pictures and brings them into a basement that's off of Charles Hawking's office. They get both Bradley and Pierce go underneath, finding about the cult. The thing is, we learn that Charles Hawking is alive, but he has been turned into a Lovecraftian horror, half man, half like Leviathan kind of creature. because he has a tentacle for an arm. Well, he has multiple tentacles for an arm, and he has like a squid-side face. Um, and of course, they also have a cephalopod mask that looked like a octopus. Um, and Bradley dies there, but of course, it's not true because he shows up in a after this. Pierce is injured, and he's brought to the Riverside Institute, where basically he's brought to back to health, but because of seeing the cult and thinking that Bradley died, he is known as insane, and they had to treat him there. And Officer Bradley is alive because he's like, Pierce, are you okay? And Pierce is like, you're supposed to be dead. I'm supposed to be dead. What happened? And this, of course, puts him into a padded cell. They treat him. Dr. Fuller is one of the biggest doctors, experimental doctors at the time. He knows what he's doing. He has credibility, and he's the founder of the Riverside Institute. He takes care of Pierce and other people, including a shoot. I'm trying to remember his name. Oh God, he's one of the Sanders. That's what it is. I think it's like Edward Sanders. Is it Edward Sanders? Oh no! I was thinking Edward Pierce. No, Mr. Sanders ends up being blind. He's blinded by his own intent, and this is because he feels like there's an apparition or being that's haunting him, and it's horrifying enough for him to even look at it. So he takes his eyes out. Of course, there's another doctor, Elson, Dr. Fuller, which is Dr. Colden, and she's able to. She's very weirded out about Fuller's. Trying to do this without getting knocked over. She's weirded out by Fuller's experiments and all that. So she goes down to the because there's the top floor and there's a basement floor. Fuller's experiments take place on the bottom floor. She goes down, frees Edward Pierce, and he's got to find his way back up. He runs into Sanders and something known as the Shambler, also known as Sarah Hawking's guest. And is known as the Shambler, and he's killed by an invisible force. And, Pierce escapes this institute, goes and looks for the now widow of Sanders, talks about it, and is like, yeah, so he mentioned something known as the Shambler. Do you know anything about this? And basically, it's one of Sarah Hawking's paintings that was given to him, was sold to him. Because Mr. I'm trying to remember his name. Mr. Sanders wanted to collect occult items, which includes knives, statues, and artifacts. Of course, this painting, and it's basically another Lovecraftian creature with sharp fangs and like a slender figure. Pierce comes across this. Before that, a cat is there, and basically because of Mr. Sanders passing, Mrs. Hawkins wants to get rid of all the occult items, and Cat is to move this and sell it off. Well, Pierce goes into it, finds because there's a whole museum of these occult items. He goes in, finds the Shambler painting, and once he looks upon it, the Shambler appears, and because of a very special looking knife, a dagger he calls it, and he stabs the painting to where it makes the shambler go back into it. Um, and it gives you like an epic Mickey like a dissolvent feeling as he goes back into the painting. And then Pierce starts doing it, and he's about to stab himself, but he goes back into reality to find Cat. And that's the whole thing of Cthulhu is madness. The thing that it's going again. So the big thing about H.P. Lovecraft is all of his horrors and all of his stories are basically about a deity or a being that is unimaginable, and unlike horror slashers and all that, there's normally a way to stop them. Big thing about Lovecraftian is there's something you cannot stop. It's an unbeatable force that exists. And the idea of it existing makes humanity go insane and go into madness. And gazing upon these creatures make you either it affects your mental to where it's kind of like you're Sanders and you want to go blind, you hurt yourself, or you become some kind of thing that where you need a padded cell. Or if you gaze upon some like a being like Cthulhu, you come be completely mad and you would basically go on a rampage. Of course, there are other beings that are a part of this Lovecraftian that you should understand, which would be like the other elders. There's a few that just wonder that are just basically gods, and then there's actually two. One is so powerful that he's seen as the one of the eldest ancient ones. And then there is one more, which is a sleeping ancient one, where if he is basically the reason why Lovecraftian / we exist is because he went to sleep and his dreams become reality, and as he sleeps, our reality is his dream, and it is truth until he wakes up. Once he wakes up, we no longer exist. And that's basically just like the lore of Lovecraft. Is basically just there's beings that are incomprehensible. But anyhow, back to the Shambler. Basically, Pierce tries to stab himself, but he's like, okay, so there's something happening here. Can you tell me where this knife goes? And it's led to a bookstore where, from what I understand, is the seller is either killed or he is taken by the occult, and he has ideas of it. And here's another thing about, so Batman takes a lot from Lovecraft, because one, you have Selina Kyle as a character, as Cat, and then you have the Arkham series books, and also just the fact that Arkham is a part of that, and that's where Arkham Asylum comes from. Anyhow, let's go back to the story. Basically, the bookseller knows about all this stuff, and because he starts getting into it too deep, they take him or kill him, and his friend ends up trying to take up the mystery from him, and he is this non-sexual, he's a mumbler, and basically he's like, oh, this is gonna happen. I know about this. He's basically a conspirator. He's a conspirator. I keep slurring my words. Pierce ends up opening this vault that has one of the most biggest calls to other media, the Necronomicon. Basically, the book that once you read it, you know about a lot of stuff. You make connections to superstition, supernatural, things like the Lovecraftian things. Basically, you learn about them, and reading certain sections make things come true. Like if you, it's the army of darkness. Ash Williams, he loses his hand tries to kill him, so he's got to cut it off, and his hand is by itself moving. Basically, that's what the Necronomicon can do. It's basically dark magic, and the connection to those kinds of worlds like Lovecraft and just pure horror. He discovers it, and basically he reads it, and he learns and connects with two beings. He learns about Cthulhu, and he learns about this person who's been giving him nightmares ever since the war, known as Leviathan. Leviathan speaks to him, trying to tell him that this is truth. Here's what the world is. Where the Cthulhu just leads him on a path, saying this is your destiny. Um, and he also sees through Colden's eyes. Dr. Colden, the one who saved him from the Riverside Institute, and she ends up getting too suspicious of Dr. Fuller. Dr. Fuller has been doing experiments on all these patients, including Mrs. Sanders, and she realizes that whatever she's doing to them, whatever Fuller's doing to them, is turning them to a hybrid of human slash cephalopod, which is an octopus or squid. Because they do suction cups on their fingers, they need water to survive. And basically they're having a comatose slash completely sickened state. And we learn about all this stuff later, and then of course it all shows that everyone on the island is having nightmares. That this makes the institute have to subscribe sleeping pills, which, from what we understand, is another thing. So there is three things: there's injection, there's gas, and then there's sleeping pills that have been secretly made by something that Fuller created, and it's doing all these experiments and turning people into this certain way. Colden no longer has to deal with it, and she learns about stuff, goes into the basement again after Pierce has already left, because Pierce is seeing the current, what happens through her eyes, and Fuller catches her and says, there's the scientific curiosity that I hired you for, and that gives him the chance to experiment on her. Pierce runs to the institute to try to figure it out, but Leviathan keeps stopping him from proceeding until it's too late and Colden has been experimented on slash killed. And Fuller escapes. And then of course, from what I understand, is Pierce goes through the institute to find a thing that Leviathan is pointing him to, and he finds Sarah Hawkins alive, completely insane with pain all over her face, and it's revealed that she has been pushed to the limit because of this cult and whatever's happening, and the death of her son during the fire. And this institute is supposed to make her recover from that insanity. And she knows about this stuff. So, because of the situation, her and Pierce, they stop the gas and all the experiments. They burn down the Riverside Institute. They escape to the Hawkins mansion. The guy that was at the bookstore, the friend of the bookstore owner, I can't remember his name, but he is basically saying that there's objects that can save Sarah and yourself from anything further happening. And one of these things would be the dagger, and also the amulet that's supposed to protect. And then there's also certain rituals that they can perform to avoid / counter these apparitions and all that. So they find the amulet, but thing is, Pierce can't help them because um, other cops have realized that he has been in too many things. The burning of the Riverside Institute. He's been messing with other people. He's went over private property. So they want to figure out answers and have a full what happened. So they arrest him and he's celled. And he leaves Sarah Hawkins to Officer Bradley, who's still alive. But Sarah and the guy from the bookstore go by themselves to the occult underground. Um, and from what I understand, is they're trying to stop the Shambler, who wasn't defeated by Pierce in that art gallery, but is still roaming around because anywhere can be a dimensional portal for him. Basically, all these hordes are from another dimension, and they cross over via something like a painting. And apparently, Sarah Hawkins is an oracle to this Cthulhuism, and she paints whatever she sees in the future. And the Shambler is one of them. They try to destroy Shambler, and it shows that that Cat was a part of this whole thing the whole time. But before they're able to defeat the Shambler, she runs off because she thinks she's in danger. Sarah Hawkins and the other guy from the bookstore defeats the Shambler, but before they can say, "We did it," Sarah Hawkins falls into madness, or she learns the truth of Cthulhu, and she joins the occult completely, which makes the bookseller get captured. And then I'm trying to think what else. Then the entire town starts going insane because of this. Because they start the awakening of Cthulhu. And this makes people go mad. And in like a zombie state. Bradley, with whatever sanity he has, saves Pierce. You have the option to kill him. That way it saves him from turning completely insane and no longer being who he is. Or you can spare him, and I guess he becomes an occult member. Pierce runs to the town again, and basically he learned from Bradley. He learns that Sarah Hawkins went towards the whaling station where they used to bring in whales and got them and get meat from them and all that. Another thing is you realize there's two things. One, you talk to the Leviathan, the other creature you know, and he starts trying to tell you about the truth. You have to believe in this truth. You have to do this. You have to follow destiny. And then he also shows Cat's point of view through like the eyes thing again, like how he did Dr. Colden. And it basically shows the the start of the insanity, and ends up killing the sheriff who arrested Pierce before Sarah went to go defeat the Shambler. The sheriff of the police department is killed by a random person. And then at that point, everyone turns insane. Cat is caught in a giant fight, and she barely survives, along with this bartender who also was at the beginning of the game. I guess he also gets severely injured, but is still sane somehow. And it is revealed that Charles Hawkins, Fuller, and Fitzroy were a part of the beginning of the occult. And because they had, some of them had ties to the great catch. Anyhow, Pierce has the choice to give a first aid kit, which may or may not save the life of Cat or the bartender. After that, he gets the ability to get into the whaling station via another area or a key that goes straight into it. Like into the backlinks that go to that. Um, Anyhow, you have the chance to meet the actual flesh of Leviathan, and this has the choice to make Pierce go even further insane, and also just looking at him slowly makes Pierce go into madness. Which, if you guys didn't realize in my gameplay, I did catch the tentacle of the Leviathan. I did not stare on top of him, so I did not go further insane. That is a part of one of the madness points that you get throughout the game. That if you every time you gain one, you slowly go more in madness. But anyhow, he keeps trying to go to figure out what happens with Sarah Hawkins. Before he can, the cult joins up with him, and they show that the leader is Fritz Roy, who brings you in first place. Um, a big thing that I also forgot to mention is there's the sleeping ones, or the ones who ascend. They're basically occult members that were put to sleep and were evolved into Cthulhu-looking followers who have fully developed suction cups and all that. And they looks truly like an octopus. Let's see, I'm trying to think after that. After that, basically, he destroys the whaling station, which means he destroys the physical form of the Leviathan, but he is he is still spiritually going through the mines and is completely frees Leviathan. And for what you guys don't sometimes might have to look into is Leviathan is the great catch. For 2 generations, they've been feasting on his flesh, keeping him alive just for it to regenerate and still make food from it. And that food is what made the occult start. Feasting on the flesh of Leviathan makes you look into the deeper truth. And it starts giving you all this stuff. And Dr. Fuller's gas and experiment injections and the sleeping pills were developed from oils and the liquids from Leviathan. So all these stuff connects. And for what I understand is, in a vision, Dr. Fuller may or may not have been killed by Pierce, making him become a part of like the mental thing that Leviathan is. He's a part of a greater mindscape. Okay, I'm trying to think because we're going into 40. So after that, basically, Pierce runs into a whole bunch of things, including another Sarah Hawkins painting showing his fate and destiny to be a sacrifice to the awakening of the sleeping one, also known as Cthulhu. He is the main key to them bringing him back. Anyhow, he climbs a point to get to the ritual point. He realizes that basically people he's seen died, which includes Bradley and Colden and Fuller. They don't just die because of this thing. So basically, even though they're not physically there, they're there. And they're a part of the occult once they were killed. Anyhow, he goes up to the ritual point, and at this point, Sarah Hawkins and Fritz Roy are like, you gotta perform the ritual for the truth of our God. The sleeping one comes up, and the bookseller, the friend of the bookseller, is there, ready to basically try to stop them, but he needs Pierce's help to be released by, like, they have, Fritz Roy has a grip on him, so he can't leave. Basically, there's 4 points. I did not have the ability to do the fourth ending, but anyhow, of course, there is you going through the ritual. There is this painted circle that Sarah Hawkins made for you. You stand in the middle of it. You get slashed, in your blood on the painting. I think it is the blood, the oiled blood of Leviathan that spread around. Your blood combines, once Pierce's blood combines with it, it is the basically the hey, it's time to wake up, Cthulhu, and of course this starts the holding of Cthulhu, the apocalypse of Cthulhu. Cthulhu awakens. Everyone sees him, and they all go insane, including Pierce. Um, and they just start eating and killing each other. This includes Pierce, and if Bradley survives, he is eyed, and I don't know what happened, but Sarah Hawkins is also killed, and each time she is holding the toy that Pierce gives her to make her come back to sanity, that was from her son, and no matter what, she holds that, because her whole point of joining the occult was the occult could bring back her son. Anyhow, that was one ending. Ending two would be the